I think we're live now. So, good evening to you guys. Give me a few minutes here to get all set up. We'll get going. Welcome to the weekly live broadcast. If this is your first time here, I do the live broadcast pretty much every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central. Sometimes things get in the way, I can't make it, but for the most part, every Thursday evening, 7 o'clock Central, I'm here. And it's just kind of an Ask Me Anything session. So, I do my best to respond to all the comments that come in on the chat itself. I always try to respond to the comments that come in on the video after it's aired as well, but sometimes I get a little behind on that. Right now I am a little behind on answering comments, so give me a second here. There we go, get the chats all popped out. Okay, the only thing I ask is be family friendly. Don't don't start cussing. Don't use adult language. Don't be rude to anybody. Any of those kinds of things will boot you out of here. But other than that, pretty much anything is fair game. So let's get into it here. So we got Kathy here. She says, "Evening, Chris. I'm disappointed to say it's day 38 and no babies. Don't know what happened. I bred 3 Rex does to my only Rex buck. Each got 3 fall offs. All good. Only one New Zealand white doe had 1 successful fall off. So let's see. You had 3 Rex does to your Rex buck, and you got 3 fall offs, but none of them had babies. That is concerning for sure. I would be a little bit concerned about the buck. You said only one New Zealand white doe had 1 successful fall off. Okay, maybe I'm getting confused here. But day 38 with no babies, that definitely means they're probably not pregnant at this point. So yeah, you're gonna have to probably just rebreed. But if you bred 3 does to your only Rex buck, you had 3 fall offs and none of them had babies, then I'd be a little concerned about the buck being maybe sterile for some reason or another. Let's see, you go on, you have another comment down here. Let me see if there's more on there. All but 4 failed to get pregnant. Okay, what are your thoughts? I'm in the process of breeding them now. Hopefully this round goes better. Okay, so reading the second part of that. Yeah, I would be a little concerned about the buck. There may be some reason why he's sterile for some reason. I don't know where you live exactly, so if it's really, really hot there, like over 80 degrees, then bucks can go sterile in that kind of heat, and it may take a little while for him to recover from that. But, if you're in the United States anyway, he should have recovered by now, unless you live in like Arizona or something like that, which, you're going to have a difficult time there. So, you could give him a little bit of time. He may go ahead and recover. Who knows? There's a lot of different things that you would be concerned about there. But the fact that none of them took and you bred to 2 different bucks, that's a little bit strange for sure. Maybe it's just bad luck. Try again and see. I wish I had better answers for you, but unfortunately, that's the best I can say. Try again, see if maybe you'll get them bred the second time, because, yeah, that's definitely bad luck. 4 rabbits, from what I'm looking at, 4 rabbits with 4 does, 2 different bucks, and none of them got pregnant. Terrible, terrible luck. Try again. It can't be, it's got to be a fluke. You got to be able to get them again the second time. Hopefully, that's the best I can say. So, all right, Paul says, hey, Chris, Paul in South Carolina. Hope you're well. Thanks, I am. Hope you are too. And there's the flightless bird. Hello to you. And Mr. Messia, hello. Lee says, hi, mate, UK watching again. Staying up late with us, Lee. I appreciate that. Thank you. And Brad Smith, hello. Doing well. Let's see, where are we going here? Cruel Intentions says, hi, brother. Hope all is well. Keep up the great work. God bless you and your family, bro. Well, thank you so much. God bless you, too. And Lahib says, hello. Hello there, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Thanks, Lahib. We hope you are, too. And Mr. Messia says, today after 4 weeks joining you. Hey, thanks for making it. I appreciate it. Raymond made it. Raymond Philly, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Chris Derry Rose says, good evening from Arkansas. So, hey, that's not too far. We're neighbors, basically. I don't know how much of this bad weather we've got coming in that you're going to get, but, stay safe through it. They're saying that we got some severe storms coming on tomorrow evening, and then it's going to be changing to snow, and we could have our first significant, really, snowfall of the year. So I know you guys that are way up north, you're like, oh, what, snow? You don't know anything about snow. But, if we get 3 or 4 inches, that's a pretty significant snowfall for around here. And we haven't had one yet this year, so we're due for it, I guess. Flightless Bird says, quail still not laying. Any ideas? Now, I know we've probably talked about this, but I don't remember the discussions we've had. The biggest thing about laying eggs is light. Light and stress are the 2 things that keep them from laying eggs. They need at least 14 hours a day of light pretty consistently in order to lay, and they need to be not stressed out. So if you start moving them around, Moving them from one cage to another or something like that, that puts them in stress. They will quit laying eggs or not start laying eggs for a while. Usually a couple of weeks it takes them to kind of calm down. Also, if there's a lot of activity like predators or any of those kinds of things really terrorizing them, that can cause them stress and they can stop laying eggs. Sometimes when you get drastic temperature change, like we're going from 50 degrees down to 20 degrees, something like that, and just it happens like that, then that can shock them a little bit. They'll stop laying for a week or two, but they'll pick back up usually. So if you got all those things fixed, you may have to increase the amount of light that you are giving them. If you're giving them 14 hours a day of light, you may just try to add another light, make it a little bit brighter. They don't really usually need super bright light in order to lay consistently, but they do need 14 hours a day, and the days are pretty short right now, so that could be the big thing. All right, where are we at here? Brian Hoyles, I think it is, says, good evening to you and thank you for your excellent information. Well, thank you for the kind comments. I appreciate it. All right, Kathy, we're talking about your rabbits not breeding. You said it's cold here in New Mexico. None of my does got pregnant. Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I wish I had better advice for you. Sometimes it just stumps me. But again, let's just call it bad luck. Try again. Fingers crossed. Hopefully it works this time. Too bad there's not an easy way to figure out if it works quicker, I mean, you could try palpating the rabbits, but that's incredibly hard to do. So, at about 10 days, if you feel babies, then, that would be a sign that they're pregnant for sure. But if you don't, that's not necessarily a sign that they're not pregnant because it's really tricky to kind of palpate them. I wish I had better advice for you. Unfortunately, I don't, other than just try again. I can't imagine, you got two different bucks that you're going to have the same problems again. I mean, it's got to be a fluke of some kind. All right. Excuse me. Rhonda says, hello, hope everyone is doing well tonight. Been super busy packing, getting ready to move. Haven't found a place, but never too early to start packing. LOL. No kidding. Yeah, packing's my least favorite thing to do. I was thinking the other day, good grief, as much junk as I've accumulated over the last 10 years I've lived in this house. If I had to move right now, it would be terrible. Of course, it might be good because I'd get rid of a bunch of junk. But, since my wife and I got married going on 3 years ago now, combined our households, we've just got so much crap. We need to get rid of some, that's for sure. But MC Productions, howdy, buddy. How are you? I'm glad to see that you're here. Thanks. James Bishop says, Chris, thanks again. Sent you a video of the quail pen. Rabbits doing good. 100 quail. Eggs in the incubator. Thanks again. Awesome. I think I know which video you're talking about with the quail pen. Looked good. Everything looked great on there. So hope it all goes well. Good luck with your hatch. All right. William Chapman says, hello, Chris. Just loaded up with eggs from my quail. We're getting eggs left and right. Thank you for all the videos and always helping. Fantastic. Glad to hear that. I'm getting eggs out of one of my hutches, but not the other one because I don't have the light on the other hutch. So they're not laying at all. But the other light I am getting eggs out of, just not a lot right now. But I'm not really worried about it right now. It's not that big a deal. So Marty Lanham says, hello from West Virginia. Well, glad you could make it. Owen, hi, how are you doing? Doing well, thank you. Where are we at here? Joe says, what do you recommend to assist a doe with nest building in the winter? She's a great mother, but a terrible nest builder from northern Ohio. I just stuff my nest boxes with straw. That's it. I mean, just stuff them with straw, about as much straw as I can get in there, punch my hand down in there to make like a little bit of a hole for them, basically. That's it. That's all I do. There's nothing else I put in there. Assuming that when she has the baby, she'll probably pull fur. They pull it from their dewlap. She'll probably pull fur and cover them. If she doesn't, you can kind of pull that fur yourself. The hormones in the rabbit cause that fur to loosen up whenever they give birth. So it's real easy to pull out. You shouldn't have to pull on it very long. But you should be able to pull some fur out there yourself and cover the babies with it. That's really all that they need. I've never found them to need anything more than that. So, all right, Raymond says, got plenty of light and no eggs. Well, Raymond, I don't know how long you've had plenty of light on them, but it does take them a couple of weeks to get to laying again. If they've stopped laying, you're in for, like I said, at least a couple of weeks once you get the conditions right for them to start laying again. So you may just have to be patient and wait just a little bit longer. But that's, unless, like I said, there's some kind of stress factor on them that would keep them from laying. If you can eliminate that stress factor and then wait a couple of weeks, they'll start laying again. All right. Chris Derry Rose Elrod says, thank you. Little Rock is looking to maybe get some wintry mix. Be safe up there. Yeah, I can imagine it's worse for Little Rock than it is here. I mean, I think we're probably just a little bit better equipped to handle it than Little Rock is. And some of you guys up there, I mean, I'm in Southwest Missouri. We get snow. We're equipped to handle it. We've got snow plows. We've got all that kind of stuff. It's not that big of a deal. But some of you guys out there want to make fun of, like, Georgia or some of those places. They get an inch of snow and it just shuts down the whole town. But you got to remember, they don't get snow that often. They're not equipped to deal with snow. So an inch of snow, if you don't plow the roads and throw salt down and all those kinds of things, it's a big deal. So I think that's probably the situation that Little Rock's in. I don't know how well equipped you guys are to handle the snow, but probably not quite as well as we are. That would be my guess. But anyway, Paul Wilson says, someone asked about dropping pans. AutoZone has 25 by 36 trays, 0.59 inches tall, for $10.99, usually in stock. They work well for me. That's a fantastic suggestion, Paul. I guess those are probably oil catch pans or something like that. But yeah, that's a 25 by 36. That's not bad. My cages are 30 by 36, so it wouldn't quite cover it. But I mean, you could get 2 of them, and that would probably cover it. But that's a pretty good price, $10.99. All right, Lauren says, hello all. I'm a little late. It's all right. We don't take attendance here. We're not going to mark you tardy or anything. All right, Brant says, have you seen any of these new quail crosses that are supposed to be 1 to 1.5 pounds? I think what you may be referring to are like the Georgia Giant Bob Whites and those kinds of things. Yeah, those aren't necessarily new, and if they do cross with something else, you got to remember they're going to be sterile. They're not going to be able to reproduce, so that's kind of a killer there. The other thing with Bob Whites is they're just not nearly as prolific of layers. They take forever to grow out. They're just not great meat production. So yeah, they may get to 1 to 1.5 pounds. But the time it takes them to get there, as slow as they are to grow, as slow as they are to lay, as few eggs as, I mean, it's just not really as great as it sounds. But you ought to check it out. Maybe I'm wrong. All right, Ignacio says, hola, Senor Chris. That's my terrible Spanish accent. Says, thanks for all your info. Thank you very much, Ignacio. I appreciate that. Brad says, anybody from Alabama? I'm sure there are. I couldn't point out who exactly, but I know we got some people in here from Alabama. Excuse me again. Grab a drink real quick. All right, Lahib says, I've got a little bit of something going on here. I'm a little stopped up. So pardon me if I'm, just pardon me. Anyway, Lahib says, we have been frozen in New York for weeks, really cold all day long. Eggs are always frozen. Quails are 5 weeks old. 52 out of 56 made it so far, all still indoor. Yeah, at 5 weeks old, they're probably okay to go outside, but you want to acclimate them to that just a little bit. But yeah, still, that's pretty good results. 52 out of 56 made it. That's great. But yeah, the eggs being frozen, I can imagine you guys have been frozen. We've actually had a pretty mild winter so far. We've had one snow, just light dusting. It's only been below freezing. Just it really we haven't had days over freezing. It's gotten down below freezing a couple of nights, and stayed below freezing up until midday. But then it's bounced back up above freezing. I mean, it's not been bad at all. I can't complain. But we're just now getting into the heart of winter, the coldest part, January, February, and really into early March is when we tend to get the worst of our winter. So it's coming. We'll see how bad it gets. Last year was pretty mild, so who knows? Maybe we'll get away lucky this year too. All right. Lahib says, boy, do they smell. I change the bedding every other day to 2 days, and it smells like vinegar. Yeah. They can for sure. Making sure you keep them dry is going to make a big difference with that. So, if you can throw something like some sawdust in there or something like that to kind of help soak up any kind of extra moisture, make sure the watering system isn't leaking into the dropping pans. Honestly, dry, quail droppings aren't that bad, but wet, that's one of the worst things ever. I mean, it's horrible how bad it smells. So keep them dry. That's the key. All right. Mr. Messia says, what is the best time taking quails out of the brooder? What temperature they survive easily? Okay, so removing quail from the brooder. I've done some videos on that, but just to give you kind of a quick rundown, Usually I move them out of the brooder box around 3 weeks old. They should be fully feathered out at that point, so it's a good point to kind of wean them off. 2 weeks old actually is when I usually start weaning them off the heat. By 2 weeks old, they're mostly fully feathered out, and you can start removing the heat. Keep them, still around 60 to 70 degrees, somewhere right around in there. And you want to wean them off the heat. You don't want to take them from 100 degrees down to 60 degrees. That's a pretty drastic drop. So what I do is I start moving that light away from them a little bit further every day. So I'll try to drop it from like 100 degrees down to maybe 90 degrees and give them like 2 days of that, and then drop it down to 80 degrees and give them like 2 days of that, and then drop it down to 70 degrees and give them 2 days of that, and then down to 60 degrees or whatever, and give them 2 days of that, and then they're usually fine at that point. You can just remove the heat lamp and they're okay. Again, you don't want to, in the wintertime especially, in the summertime, they just go right out to the grow out pens right then. They're just fine. 2.5 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. They're going out to the grow out pens. In the wintertime, I keep them in my garage, which never gets below about 55 degrees. I keep them in there until they're about 3.5, 4 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. And then I'll go ahead and move them outside. So hopefully that kind of answers that. All right, Lauren says, hope you don't mind me saying I have 11 bunnies for sale. I don't mind at all. You can pitch them. If anybody wants to buy them, they can buy them. So you've got 11 bunnies for sale. The sire's 50-50 New Zealand and Harlequin. The dame is a New Zealand Harlequin Flemish Rex. It's a weird mix, but it works. Located in Indiana, she has 10 to 13 bunnies per litter and a great mom. So anybody looking for some rabbits near Indiana, there you go. All right, Jupiter says, good evening, Chris. Hope you've had a great week. It's not been bad. It's been really, really busy. So if I'm behind on answering comments, I usually try to respond to every comment that comes in, but it's been really hard to keep up lately, so I apologize for that. I'll try to get caught up on that. All right, Odai is here. Good evening, Odai. I'm doing well, thank you. Hopefully you are too. Maria Gomez says, my baby rabbits are 6 weeks old. Now they start eating carrots and hay pellets. Is that okay, or are they too small for rabbit food? No, it's 6 weeks old. They should be eating. In fact, they should be pretty much weaned at 6 weeks old. Rabbits are going to usually start eating the feed that their mom is eating, little bits of it anyway, at about 2 to 2.5, 3 weeks old, somewhere right around in there. They'll start eating it. Now they're not weaned at that point. That's not their total diet. They'll just start to eat that. They'll nibble on it. They'll eat a little bit of that. But by 6 weeks old, they should pretty much be weaned, and they should be pretty much eating. Almost entirely. Solid food, whatever kind of food it is you're feeding them. Pellets, hay, carrots. Don't feed them a lot of carrots. Carrots are really high in sugar. They should be a treat, not a part of their regular diet. But 6 weeks, not at all a problem. They're fine. All right. Word Up No Jesus says, maybe they are still too young, rabbits breeding. Did I miss an earlier comment from you? I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly. I'm going to just call you Word Up. That's a little easier. I'm not sure exactly what we're talking about there. I missed it. Maybe I skipped a comment. I'm sorry if I did. Hopefully I'll come across it here in a minute. Hello to you, Livy's Scottish Dancing. Hopefully I got your name right. Bubba Hauk says, hi, Chris. Bubba from North Carolina. Question, how do you clean your 1/2-inch floor in your quail cages? I don't really clean the open part, the open section that's all just wire floor. I don't clean it. I don't find I need to. The droppings fall through. I don't have any problems with it getting really dirty. If you do, I don't think it'd take much, just a brush of some kind, even a wire brush or whatever, and just brush over it. That should knock everything through. The sandbox section of it, it's still got wire on it, but it's got a piece of wood underneath it. So what I do to clean that is I have an old piece of window screen. I just scoop it up and shake it, and all the sand falls through, the droppings stay in the screen. That gets dumped out. That's pretty much all I do. So hopefully that kind of answers that question for you. All right, Word Up says, are you worming or vaccinating while breeding? I never worm or vaccinate my rabbits. I would not do that with rabbits that are nursing. So any doe that has babies or is about to have babies, I wouldn't worm her or vaccinate her for anything. I would just let her have her babies first, wait till they're weaned. Then you can do that if you want to, but I don't find it necessary to vaccinate them against anything. I don't worm them. My rabbits don't have worms. I've never had problems with that. Now, if you've got them in contact with the ground, they're going to have a much higher chance of getting worms, but honestly, I don't think it's a huge risk. I don't know that you should have to worry about it too much unless you have a problem with it, then I don't see any reason to do it. That's my opinion. All right, Jupiter says, thumbs up for the broadcast, everybody. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Jeff, anyone use cuttle bones for quail? It's not really necessary. Cuttle bones are, I don't use them myself. Cuttle bones are kind of there for the birds to kind of keep their beaks trimmed down. I don't find it necessary for the quail. I mean, every once in a while, I'll get one that has a beak that's a little bit overgrown. You can trim them off. I've done videos on that before. But even then, I don't do that very often at all, unless I've got one that's just really, really bad. But it's so rare. It doesn't happen very often, so I don't find it necessary. But you can do that if you want to. Chris says, yes, I get such a giggle when the citizens around here panic because we might get a bit of snow. I grew up in Massachusetts, so I'm not worried. So I am more experienced with dealing with it. Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story real quick. I lived in Texas, Nacogdoches, Texas, for about 8 years. And it snowed one time while I was there. And it was Easter Sunday. It was like 50 degrees out, but it snowed. And I was at the grocery store, and big snowflakes starting coming down. And people just started panicking. I mean, they're going through the grocery store line like, "Oh, I gotta get this done." And I was like, "What is wrong?" Some lady I was talking to, I was like, "What is wrong exactly?" And she's like, "It's snowing outside. I gotta get home before the roads get bad." And I was like, "It's 50 degrees outside. They're not gonna get bad." It was the funniest thing ever. They just panicked completely, and it didn't accumulate at all. It was so funny. Anyway, but if you don't know, you don't know. All right. Right Eye Blink says, good evening all from Norway. Good evening to you. Thanks for joining us all the way from Norway. All right, Word Up says, William, need to add calcium oyster shells. What are we talking about? Oh, I missed a comment, didn't I? William says, I did have one egg, super soft. Any idea what to do for that? Well, you could add calcium, but honestly, if you had one egg that's soft, don't worry about it. It's probably an anomaly. Especially if your birds just started laying, it's really common for them to lay some weird eggs. You're going to get, a great big double yolk egg, a little bitty tiny no yolk egg, an egg with no shell on it, an egg with soft shells on it. It happens, and it especially happens with young birds when they first start laying, and then they just get over it and it's fine. It's no problem at all. I doubt you need to add any extra calcium. Check your feed. It should tell you what the calcium percentages are. As long as they're about 1.5 to 2%, somewhere right around in there, you shouldn't need to add any extra calcium to your feed. That's plenty for them. Unless you start running into like consistently getting soft eggs, then you would definitely want to add some calcium. But Word Up, you're right. I mean, that can be a sign of needing extra calcium, but just the first soft egg you get, don't just automatically assume that means you need more calcium. It's not necessarily that way. Give it some time, see if it's a consistent problem or not. There can actually be some problems by adding too much calcium. Now, of course, quail won't overeat that. If you add calcium, you always do it in a separate container than their feed. Don't mix it in, and just give them free choice. They'll eat as much as they need of it. But if you get too much calcium in their diet, then it can make their eggshells a lot thicker, and then it makes it difficult. It'll affect your hatch rates. It makes it difficult for the babies to be able to pip the shell and get out of the eggshell because the shells are too thick. So, you really don't want to just add extra calcium for whatever reason. Just make sure it's actually an issue before you do. All right. Chris says, I keep 2 bags of salt and sand in my garage at all times just in case we get ice. Yeah, I never use salt for ice. I do have a propane torch it's made for burning weeds off, and you guys may have seen videos where I've used that before, but it works great for ice removal. You just hook it up to a propane tank and burn the ice right off your concrete. It's great. But I don't ever use salt myself. We do use it at work, but I don't use it at home. Lauren says, hey to you, Lauren. Brittany says, hi, Chris. Just bought our first 3 meat rabbits, 2 does and a buck. They're all purebred silver fox. What's your opinion on them? We couldn't find New Zealand breed at 4 months with a question. Wait till they're about 6 months old. 4 months is a little bit early to start breeding them. 6 months is good. Purebred silver foxes are great meat rabbits, though. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people look for those over New Zealand. So you got probably some pretty good rabbits. I wouldn't be upset about that at all. They're a fantastic breed for meat rabbits. All right. Brant says, the 1.5 pound crosses are from Kansas City, I think, breeder. You linked crossed with James Marie meat makers. Really? I'll have to look into that then. I may have missed something. I'll have to check that out. All right. SMK says, Bubba, how a paint scraper works good. I think you're talking about cleaning the wire. Yeah, if you get stuff stuck on it, a paint scraper would be a great idea. Good suggestion. Thank you. Jakir says, greetings from the UK, Chris. Nice to join you. Hope you and your family are doing well. Thank you so much. I hope yours are too. And for joining us all the way from the UK, we've got somebody else here from the UK tonight, and I've already forgotten who it was. But anyway. All right, J-Man Random. A bobcat came up and ripped the bottom layer out of my cage and killed 30 of my quail. Man, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, bobcats, I mean, really any kind of predator can get through hardware cloth pretty easily. I don't have a huge problem with predators here, but bobcats, dogs, any of those kinds of things, it's not that difficult for them to get through hardware cloth. If you have a consistent problem with it, you might add some hot wire, some electric wire around the bottom if that's a possibility, and that'll help keep them at bay. Mr. Messia says, I moved out without dropping temperatures and lost 6 of the quails. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah. You've got to acclimate them to that temperature first. You can't drop them from 100 degrees down to 20 or 30 degrees. That's just too drastic. They've got to be acclimated to it first. All right. Jakir says, I'm thinking to change my wire from 1/2 by 1/2 to 1 inch by 1/2. That will probably work. Hang on a second. I got to grab a drink here. That will probably work, but the thing you may have to worry about is if it doesn't cause feet problems for them. 1 inch gaps is a little bit big for their feet, so you might test it out, see if your quail can walk on it just fine. But you're saying that the droppings seem to get in the 1/2 inch wire mesh. I don't have problems with it myself, but who knows? Try it out and see. 1/2 or 1 inch by 1/2 inch might work pretty well. You might try it out on one of your cages or at least part of it. See how the birds walk on it and make sure they're doing okay. They don't end up with any kind of feet problems. It's a little bit of a big gap for them to walk on. So, that'd be the only thing you'd have to kind of keep an eye on. But who knows? Maybe it'll work just fine. All right, Lahib says, I've tried moving the heat lamp, but they all cuddled together, and the next morning one of them was unable to walk anymore, and they all slept on him, and I had to put him down. Yeah, okay, that can happen. I know what you're talking about. You may not be able to move the heat lamp that far back. You may just move it a little bit back. Put a thermometer in there if you can, so you know what temperature it is, and don't just guess at it. If they're all piling together under the heat lamp, they're too cold, and they will definitely trample each other and pile on top of each other, and they can suffocate and kill the birds that are on the bottom layers. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've had things like that happen. So that is a sign that maybe you got it too cold for them. Just watch your birds. What you will notice a lot of times when you start to acclimate them off the heat, you move the heat lamp back a little bit, drop the temperature 5-10 degrees. They kind of huddle up under there, for a little while, and then they start spreading back out again as they've acclimated to it. But it's different when they're huddled up a little bit, kind of close to it, as opposed to just packed in all on top of each other. And if they're that way, then it's definitely a little too cold. You need to move the heat lamp a little bit closer. Can be a little bit tricky, but like I said, I would put a thermometer in there so you can kind of keep a track of it. I mean, sometimes it doesn't take very much to move. You move the heat lamp back just a little bit, and it's a big temperature change. All right. Let's see, he goes on to say, I'm still using the heat lamp with a fan on low next to it so the warm air will dry the area up. I noticed I get a day or two extra before I have to change bedding. Yeah, that's a good idea, putting a fan on it especially. I'd be careful with heat lamps. They can definitely be dangerous and cause fires and those kinds of things, but a fan itself will do a good job in helping keep things dry. Hey, Hatch Poultry's here. Good evening, Hatch Poultry. Glad to see you. Kathy says, carrots are not good for rabbits. The greens are perfectly fine, but the root is a treat at best. The carrot will make them fat, too much sugar, and not a natural food. Yeah, carrots, again, as a treat, it's fine, but not as part of the regular diet. It really is too high in sugar for sure. All right, James Bishop says, Chris, I forgot to ask. I got a Farm Innovation incubator. Temperature is good, but humidity fluctuates between 45 and 55. Will that be okay? It probably will be. It just depends. When you look at your incubator, those hydrometers that are on there that measure the humidity, they're notoriously bad at doing that. You're not really getting a good, accurate humidity reading off that. It really, the only way to get a really good, accurate humidity reading is do like relative humidity, which is a little bit more involved. If your windows are fogging up on your incubator and there's water in the trays below, it's probably fine. I wouldn't worry about it. Chances are what you're running into is the same thing we run around into here. It's winter time, and the winter air is incredibly dry. I mean, incredibly dry compared to summertime air. So it's not reading your humidity exactly correct. In other words, it's probably fine as long as you're not just bone dry at the bottom of the incubator. I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's probably good. All right, Jakir says, is PVC coated wire mesh better than just general wire mesh? Mine has begun to rust. It can be better for sure. It's going to be. I don't use PVC coated myself because it's just too expensive. But yeah, it can be better. It will hold up a little bit longer. It can be easier on their feet. I don't have any problems with mine with their feet. But it could be, like I said, it can be a little bit easier on their feet too. So yeah, it can be better for sure. The one thing you may want to worry about with PVC coated wire is that it's going to be slightly, your half inch by half inch is not going to be quite a half inch square because you've got the coating around the wire. So that takes up a little bit of space in the wire, the gaps, so to speak. So, that may cause more problems with getting droppings stuck in them than if you're having problems with them now. All right. Maria says, thank you so much for your answer on the baby rabbits. And by the way, my quail are laying a lot of eggs. Thanks for letting me know to put the lights to get 14 hours of light. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Congratulations on having a bunch of eggs. All right. Jakir says, I found that the bigger jumbo quail have bigger droppings. My jumbo golden Italian quail weigh about 495 grams. Yeah, those are pretty good. That's a pretty good amount of meat that you're getting off those. So that may be why, yeah, maybe switching to some bigger wire might not be a bad idea for you, for sure. All right. SMK What's Nick says, Nacogdoches is a pretty place. It was kind of a pretty place. I kind of like Nacogdoches. I mean, pretty in a different way. I'm from Southwest Missouri. I'm from the Ozarks, which is, in my opinion, a very beautiful place. Nacogdoches is kind of piney woods, and I mean, it's different, but it's pretty in its own way. It was a nice town. Lots of, smaller town. So, lots of small town things that go on there, festivals and, those kinds of things, which are kind of cool. I liked it. I liked it a lot. It was a nice place. All right. Mr. Messia says, is it advisable to mix new breeds with old? I don't know what you mean by that exactly. Mix a new breed with an old. I don't know what a new breed is compared to an old, but yeah, you can mix breeds of rabbits all you want. As long as they're both decent sized rabbits, they'll probably be good meat rabbits. I don't personally have not had good luck with Flemish Giant mixes. I know we've got a couple of people in here that have talked about how they've been great for them, but me personally, they have not been great for me. They tend to have smaller litters and they tend to grow out incredibly slow. So I don't like Flemish Giant mix, but pretty much any other of the decent sized meat, bigger rabbits are going to be just fine to mix. All right, Rebecca says, we moved a few of our quail to our basement. I am looking for winter eggs, but how much light should the quail themselves have for good health? Okay, so if you've got them in the basement, I always tell you don't need super bright light in order to get quail to lay eggs or to keep them healthy, but you do need, that's assuming that they're outside and you're extending the daylight. You don't need to extend the daylight with super bright light, but they do need a certain amount of light. You don't want to keep them in the dark. Honestly, just a shop light, fluorescent lighting is going to be just fine for them. Just hang it right above their cage. That's going to be plenty of light for them. They don't need, again, you don't need to put, full spectrum lights or any of that kind of stuff on them. If you want them laying eggs, it's got to be 14 hours a day. Otherwise, you can cut it down to 8-10 hours a day is fine, and they'll be perfectly happy. All right. Word Up says, I was commenting on what you were talking about when I came on, way back up the line, LOL. Oh, you were commenting on... Oh, your comment earlier, okay. I've already forgotten that one too, I'm sorry. So I have a hard time, I'm carrying on like several conversations here, so sometimes you guys come in and you're responding to something I said, but what I said was way up there and I can't remember what it was, what we were talking about, so forgive me for that. I get lost in the comments sometimes, so... Paul says, Chris, do you have any issues with feral cats harassing your quail pens? Not really. I have issues with feral cats using my flower beds and things as a litter box, but I don't have any problems with. And they're not feral cats. They're whoever's cats. They're just wandering the neighborhood. But I don't really have any issues with them harassing my quail. They don't bother them. Kathy says, you made me laugh when you flame throwing sound effects sound like a fun when you had to play with it. Oh, when you play with it. Okay, sorry. There's a little bit of I don't know if you're typing on your phone or not. That's the kind of thing that happens on my phone, but the words got a little jumbled up there at the end, or the typos or something like that. Yeah, it's not a bad. It's kind of fun to play with, actually. I don't mind it so much at all. Yeah, my sound effects. You guys should be around me more often. I probably make more of those. All right. Paul says you just answered this. Love this chat. Well, thanks. I'm glad. Word Up says the worming vaccination question was again for a person who had bred rabbits and was not getting babies. Way back up the first talk. Oh, good point. Yeah, that's a good thought too. Yeah, if you're worming them or giving them vaccinations or any kind of medications, that can affect whether they're getting pregnant or not too. All right. Tundmatu says, hi man, Estonia here again. Can't sleep, it's 3:20 a.m. Good grief, you're up early. So when I butcher quail, I make them into 4 pieces before putting them in the freezer. I really love quail legs. The quail legs aren't bad. I've talked before about, don't feel bad if you're wasting them because there's not much to them. But I do like them. They're actually pretty good. You can season them up pretty heavily and then make them into almost like hot wings, heavily season them, bake them off, and they make pretty good little hot wings. All right. Bubba says, Chris, I have quail, and in one day I got 12 eggs from 8 quails. Is that uncommon? Yeah, it's not terribly common for you to get 12 eggs from 8 birds, but, especially when they're young and they first start laying, they kind of go crazy with the egg laying, and you very well may get 2 eggs from a bird in one day, and chances are what's happening is they're laying one early in the morning, one later in the evening. You're just picking them up. So it is 2 in one day, but it's not like 2 at the same time, so to speak. All right, but that'll calm down. Like I said, that's pretty common with brand new egg layers. All right, Mr. Messia said, I made a temperature-controlled brooder, and it's working very fine. Yeah, I love my temperature-controlled brooder. That makes it easier. I don't have to move the light away from it. I just set the temperature, and it's done. So it's pretty easy. The one I'm using right now is the wireless one, the Inkbird wireless controller. I did videos on it a while back. It works great. It connects to my cell phone, so I can go into the app and just set the temperature on my app. I don't even have to actually mess with the unit itself. All right. Tundmatu says, to Kenneth, it's not as much as on the breast, but the legs taste better in my opinion. But cut out the leg between part as it is really bitter. Cut out the leg between. Oh, you're talking about the tendon in the leg. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Charger says, Jakir, I switched to 16 gauge coated 1 inch by 1/2 inch wire, and it has been so much better for my birds. I would recommend it if they're on the wire all the time. Hey, thank you for the suggestion. Sounds like that'll work great. All right, SMK says, love the Ozarks. Went hiking in Arkansas last summer. Arkansas is a beautiful state. Just gorgeous. Love Arkansas. Kenneth says, Tunmatu says, where do you live? I live in Bowman, North Dakota. I am in southwest Missouri. I live in Joplin, Missouri. And unless you're from here, you probably haven't heard of it. Unless you hear me say it. That's probably the only time you've heard of it. Jakir says, I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone on here for all your help, tips, and videos. I have benefited a lot from your channel. I'm sure everyone else has too. The live stream is the icing on the cake, and that's great. We can connect with you personally. Feels like a big family. I'm so glad you guys feel that way, because I feel that way too. And that's one of the things. And thank you for the kind comments, by the way. I'm glad to hear that my videos are helpful. I'm glad to hear that you guys are finding my advice to be helpful. I'm glad to be able to help you guys out. That's why I do this YouTube channel. I like to connect with people. I like to be able to help people. I like to be able to teach. That's kind of in my nature. So I'm glad to hear that it's received well. Jupiter says, Chris, do you ever plant spinach in your garden? Yeah, I plant spinach from time to time. I like spinach. I don't grow it all the time, but I I do. I do plan it on a fairly regular basis. Jill says, "Hi Chris, a new experience here. Coming back from the city and having to listen and type from my phone. The humidity on my incubator will be 50% in the morning and down to 25% at night. So, how long can they go without harming them? The humidity in my incubator will be 50% in the morning and down to 25% at night." It's not really a huge concern until you get to lockdown. At lockdown, you need to up the the humidity just a little bit. And I say a little bit, like 65, 75%, somewhere right around in there. I wouldn't worry about 50% in the morning, 25% at night right now. When you go into lockdown, you do want to, like I said, try to up that humidity a little bit. But the most you can do is just fill the trays at the bottom of the incubator with water. Just fill them all the way to the top. All of them if you have to. But you don't want to go overboard with humidity either, because that can be just as bad. So I would err on the side of a little less humidity than a little bit more humidity. And that hopefully will work. All right. Kenny Cormier says, "Hi from northern Maine." Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. Leap said, "If I want to lower my number of quails, at what age can you actually call and eat or feed the dog? I tried giving it away or selling some extras, but no luck." Usually by about 8 weeks, they're full grown. 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there, they're full grown. I mean, you can eat them before that if you want to. And you can eat them well after that if you want to. Anytime after that is fine. What I find though is 8 to 12 weeks is about the time where you're going to get the most growth for your food conversion. So after that, they're just eating a lot of food. They're not really putting on anymore. They're not growing anymore. They're not growing very fast anyway. So you're spending a lot of money on food for not much return, if that makes sense. So that's why most people eat them between 8 to 12 weeks, somewhere right around in there. If you want to feed them to your dog, you can do that anytime you want to. It doesn't matter. There's no definite, well, don't feed them before this time or don't feed them after that time. It's just 8 weeks is typically the ideal. They're big enough to make it worth it at that point. And they have, that's when you get your best food to meat conversion, if that makes sense. All right, Jim's In Town Gardening says, "Greetings, Chris and all." Thanks, Jim. Greetings to you as well. Kathy says, "No, my rabbits are free of all that stuff. No vaccine, no RXs of any kind other than pellets. They're all left to be rabbits in their colony." So, running them in a colony, it's possible. If you're running them in a colony, that means they've got contact with the ground. They may have picked up some kind of illness or disease. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Try it again, see if it works. Let's call the first one an anomaly, and I just wouldn't worry about it. All right. Alan says, "I have 6 button quail hens, and they lay exactly 6 eggs a day, all of them between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. And they lay in the same spot unless one has decided she wants to brood on her eggs for a bit and won't move." Yeah, that's pretty common, I think, with my Coturnics as well, is that, they're not all laying right now, but when they are laying, they lay pretty consistently, and they lay them all, it seems like, in the afternoon, evening time. Not quite as precise as 1 to 2 p.m., but it's almost always in the evening where I get my egg production. All right, Rezaul, I think it is, says, "I have one 2-week-old Texas A&M quail chick that is finding it hard to stand up straight. No splayed legs." You said 2 weeks old? 2 weeks old and finding it hard to stand up straight. And it's not a leg issue. Is it wry neck maybe? Are they twisting their neck and like looking up at the sky, that kind of thing? That could be a sign of wry neck, which could be caused by a number of things. One of them could be a vitamin deficiency. So you may have to add something that'd be like vitamin E and thiamine would be the two that you would look for. And that's going to be in like some kind of water soluble vitamin you just add to their water. That could help with that a lot. That would be the best thing that I would try. All right. Mr. Messiah says, "Chris, you're a good teacher, I believe." Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Gary B says, "Good evening, everyone. Had hen the other day lay a light, very small speckled egg instead of a mottled egg. Next day laid one with no external shell. Next day back to normal with question marks." Yeah, don't worry about it. That's pretty common. They go through stages, especially when they're, like I said, they're brand new, first start laying eggs. You're going to get those weird eggs from time to time. It's nothing to worry about. They'll smooth out and get. Now, if you start getting, no shell on the eggs on a regular basis, or really thin eggshells on a regular basis, like it's every day or every other day for an extended period of time, like a month, then yeah, you might look at adding some extra calcium to your diet or something like that. But just one or two like that, that's pretty common. I wouldn't worry about it, especially if they're young birds and they just started laying in the last couple of weeks. That's you run into that a lot. All right, Sulphur Springs Homestead says, sorry I'm late and greetings. That's okay. We're not, like I said, we don't keep attendance here. We're not going to count you tardy or anything. Alan says to Rezaul, I had one with a wonky leg, and one day the rest turned on him and killed him. Keep an eye on it. Yeah, that's true. I mean, a lot of times, if you get a bird that's injured or something like that, especially younger birds, for some reason, they will turn on the other bird and they'll take it out. It's like they identify the weakness and don't want it part of their flock, I guess. All right, Jupiter says, how's the Kickstarter going? Actually, it hasn't kicked off yet, but we're getting ready to. It's probably going to be in the next week or two. I keep saying that, but I'm betting. I mean, it's pretty much ready to go. So I'm betting in the next 2 weeks we'll be kicking that off. I'll be sure to let you guys know when it kicks off. If you're interested in a good solar light for your quail hutch or your chickens or whatever you're raising, then you might be interested in that. But we'll talk more about that as it gets launched. All right, William says to Lahib, I found that joining herpetology groups, snakes, was one of the best ways to sell quail. That's a great suggestion, William. Says they pay better price for males than quail people will. Will they buy babies and they will buy babies that die in the brooder. That's a great suggestion. They also buy injured and older quails at full price. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. If you can find anybody that raises snakes or reptiles in your area, then quail would be a great suggestion for them. Another place you can look would be, if anybody is a falconer, like they, hunt with falcons and those kinds of things. Quail would be a great, they're going to be interested in buying quail from you. It's a great food source for their birds as well. All right. Kenny says, just bought my new home with 2 acres, planning to start raising quail this spring. What kind of incubator do you recommend for someone on a budget? Well, it depends. When you say on a budget, I don't know exactly what your budget is, but if you can afford it, one of those styrofoam incubators, either a Little Giant or a Farm Innovations are good. If you can afford it, the Hovabator, with the forced air kit is a really good incubator. So Hovabator 1602, I think is what it is. But they're the styrofoam box incubators. Those are really the good ones. That's what I would go with. And they're usually pretty cheap, about $100. Is what you should expect to pay with that. And I've had really good results with my Little Giant incubator. It's worked really well for me. I was looking over at it. It's sitting over here you guys can't see it. Where are we at here? Brad says, what do you feed your quail? I live in Australia and I buy a game bird pellet. Yeah, I buy a game bird crumble. It's a crumble feed. I usually use, actually the one I use is a 30% protein, but I always suggest anything over about 25% if you can get it. Or turkey starter, because a lot of times you can't find game bird starter, and turkey starter is pretty much the same thing. Usually has a higher protein percentage than what chicken starter or chicken feed does. So yeah, I use a game bird starter. That's what I feed all my birds. The adults get it, babies get it, all of them eat 20 or 30% game bird starter. All right, Mr. Messiah says, quail eggs with the spots, are they fertile and can they be incubated? Maybe. The spots are not really an indication of whether they're fertile or not. I mean, if your eggs are fertile, they're fertile and you can incubate them. You can't really tell, the ones that don't have spots, the ones that do, whether that means that they're fertile or not. All right. Tundamatu says, I saw a huge fox in my garden once, grabbed a katana and ran out. It got away and killed one quail. Maybe next time. If you can get a fox with a katana, you are a faster runner than I am. That would be something amazing to see. Fox are predators, but they're part of the natural environment around. Hopefully he's got his fill with just the one quail and he doesn't come back. Sorry you lost the one though. Kathy says, cool, thanks William. That's a fantastic tip. What was the tip we talked about? Was that the joining the herpetology groups? Yes, that is a good tip. All right, Mr. Messiah, my first hatch, quails have started laying in 8 weeks. Awesome. That's good to know. All right. Lahib says, I'm meeting with a falconer Saturday and joining the snakes group in my area. They all say they are interested, but no one showed up 4 weeks later. LOL. Yeah, it's the way it goes sometimes, unfortunately. All right. Oh, good point, Gary. Gary wants to know from who is it? Brad. Yeah, how are you with the fires there in Australia? We're hearing all about it. I don't know how much of that is media hype and how bad it really is. So hopefully things are okay with you, Brad, and you're not, having any problems with the fires. Sulphur Springs says, I just had a chicken egg that hatched off a duck. What the duck? Poor humor. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Okay. um, no, the spots on the eggs don't really mean anything. William says, that's how I started too. Eventually, someone shows up and became a regular customer. Then his uncle became a regular. It takes some time, but they need lots of quail for snakes. That makes sense. Okay, so we're running out of comments here. How are you doing on time? 10 minutes to go. So, well, I will say, you guys kept me talking for almost a full hour nonstop for the most part. Let me drop if you guys are not familiar with the solar light that I'm working on, I have prototypes. You guys may have seen the videos. It's a solar light with a programmable timer on it. So you set it to come on, you set it to go off. It comes on. For me, I set it to come on about, 3:30 in the morning, and it stays on until 7:30 in the morning. So it wakes them up a little bit early, and it keeps the light going. It extends the daylight for me. It keeps my birds laying. It's all solar powered, and it's programmable. So that's pretty nice. I don't have to go out and flip lights on and off or anything like that. I don't have to run extension cords out there, any of those kinds of things. So I will be running Kickstarter to get that thing launched, to make the money to make the bulk order if you're interested in that. Let me put a link down here below. You can go sign up, and it'll be in the live chat here. And you can get signed up there, and I'll let you know when it launches. I won't spam you with email, don't worry. I don't send out hardly any email at all. I probably should, but I don't. All right. Lahib says, I have 2 incubators, one that can hold 120 and one can hold 56, so I can produce quails. I just lack the clients. Yeah, I know how that goes for sure. Kathy says, when I had a 13-foot python, I had to feed her 10-pound rabbits. Yeah, a 13-pound python, or a 13-foot, python is going to eat more than just quail, that's for sure. But quail would be a great for, smaller, like ball pythons and some of those, snakes that don't get quite as big as that. When I had a 13-foot python, I used to feed it Cornish game hens because they were cheap and easy to come by. All right. William wants to know what state you're in, Lahib. Lahib, if I remember right, you're in the UK, aren't you? I think. Maybe I'm wrong. No, you're in New York, aren't you? That's right. I think you are. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. All right. Brittany says, I have the silver fox. Will they have small babies? No, silver fox are usually pretty decent size rabbits. Kenny Cormier says, thanks for your advice. Love your videos and live chats. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And Brittany wants to know, and or small litters. No, silver fox are usually a pretty good meat rabbit. They usually have pretty decent sized litters, decent sized babies. They grow pretty good and fast. I mean, they make a pretty decent meat rabbit. All right, Sunny says, I've signed up for 2 lights. Do I need to sign up again? Yeah, if you did the Kickstarter the last time, which was like a year ago almost, we didn't meet our funding goals. So it didn't get, you didn't get charged for that, but none of that's going to be, you have to do it all over again. It's a brand new Kickstarter, running it all over again from scratch. They won't let me just pick it back up and extend the time frame or any of those kinds of things, but nobody got charged for it because we didn't meet our funding goal. So you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you'd have to sign up again if you wanted 2 of them. All right. Brittany says, also our buck seems wild. How do I somewhat tame him? Other than just constantly handling a lot, bring him some treats when you come to visit him, those kinds of things. He should calm down over time, but it's going to take a little bit of time and effort to get that. But that's all you can do. Just spend a lot of time with him, bring him treats, make him feel comfortable. He'll eventually calm down. All right. Lauren says, where are we at here on time? 5 minutes. Lauren says, sorry, just again, if anyone just came in, I have 11 bunnies for sale. The sire is 50-50 New Zealand Harlequin. The dame is a New Zealand Harlequin Flemish Rex mix, located in Indiana. Mama has 10 to 13 bunnies per litter and a great mom. So again, if you're in Indiana or that area and you're looking for some rabbits, there are some for sale. Jupiter says, we have a boa that's about 6 feet and he enjoys the occasional quail. Yeah, I would imagine he would. Lauren says, thank you for all your help, Chris. Well, no problem. You're absolutely welcome. Mr. Messia says, I made a wooden incubator, can accommodate more than 400 eggs at a time. It's working very fine for me. Nice. That's good. 400 eggs at a time. That's a lot of birds to hatch out. All right. Looks like Lauren is in southern Indiana. William says, cool. I go to Wyoming County, New York 4 times a year. Maybe someday when I'm in town, I can be a customer. Nice. Jim's in town gardening says, Chris, do you breed your rabbits all winter? I'm in central Maine. My rabbits are in a 12 by 20 building with a small heater. When temps are 0 outside, the coolest my building got is 34. Yeah, I tend to breed my rabbits in the wintertime, almost completely in the wintertime. And I breed them pretty much all winter long. I never have problems. And they don't even have a heater. But the only time I ever have problems with losing rabbits in the cold is if they're not born in the nest box or if they get drugged out of the nest box. And that's really only happened to me once or twice. The last litter I had, it happened actually, but it's not very common. As long as they're in the nest box, they do just fine. I never have any problems at all. All right. Kathy says, thanks, Chris, for the advice tonight. Have a great night. Well, thank you, Kathy, and hopefully you have a good night too. Lauren says, if you want more info, please leave your email on a video that I have. I will delete it once I get it, and I have a video on them too. So you can go to Lauren's channel. I don't know how we get to your channel, Lauren. It doesn't let us click on your name in the live chat. So I don't know that there's any way to go to your YouTube channel to see the video or leave comments. You may have to put your channel name down there or something. All right. Lieb says, we appreciate it as always, Chris. Thank you so much. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Jupiter says, have a great night, Chris. I think everybody's getting ready to wrap this up. We got a couple of minutes here, so I guess I should probably get it wrapped up too. I've got a few things to get done for work tomorrow, and got to get the kitchen cleaned up and made dinner, but I haven't put it all away yet. So, all right. I'll just wrap this up here. We got a little bit of a dull spot here, a little slow down. Thank you guys for watching tonight. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate hanging out with you guys every week. It's always good to get in here and spend some time with everybody else. So thank you guys for coming back week after week with me. I appreciate it. We'll see you guys hopefully next Thursday. I don't think there's any reason why I shouldn't be here next Thursday. God bless all of you guys, and good night.